Hey everybody, welcome back to another My Top 5 video, and today I want to talk about my top 5 favorite modulation effects that we have in the Line 6 Helix. I do a fair amount of session work and composing and tone demos and whatnot, and I'm always looking for real cool, interesting textures that may inspire new ideas in composition or something to send to a producer or an artist who I'm doing session work for. Kind of almost paint an audio picture rather than just always playing sort of straight ahead tones, which are also great sometimes. But it's really nice to have, shall we call it, a different palette of colors and understand how they work. And I wanted to show you my top 5 modulation effects that I use a lot of times to kind of create some pretty interesting soundscapes. So let's hop over to HX Edit and take a look at my top 5 modulation effects we have in the Helix and the HX Stomp. So coming in at number 5 is the Script Mod Phase, which is a phaser pedal. But to be more accurate, it's a model of the MXR Phase 90, and this is a really useful pedal. Before I go into that, though, I want to show you what I'm doing as far as the signal chain you're hearing. I just grabbed the Tweed Blues norm, kind of moved a couple of the tone stack parameters around. I'm actually running it in as something different into an IR, one of my new IRs that I just released. It's available in the Line 6 marketplace through my website, which is the RAV 212 impulse bundle. So this is the combination of the Cascade Fathead ribbon mic with a Warm Audio 47 Junior mic. I really like the tones that's coming out of these. And it's the whole packages of my Rev 212 cabinet with vintage 30s, and really, really happy with the way those turned out. With nothing else on right now, I'm running it in through reverb and a tiny little bit of LA Studio Comp at the end. We have this tone. All right, so that's what we're starting off with. So the Script Mod Phase, what I like about some of these modulation effects is how simple they are. If we turn this on, we have a rate, a mix, and a level. We're just leaving the level as it is. That's just going to control the output level. I usually keep my mix at 50%, and I kind of like the rate around 4, and I place it before the amp. I really love the texture that gives, and I use this setting on the Script Mod Phase with it before the amp in so many of the sessions I do, and anytime I'm composing, if I just want a part, sometimes a main part, but also sometimes just a texture that I can maybe pan off to one side or another and keep kind of low in the mix. It just helps to give like more of a beautiful sonic landscape to it. So at number 5 is the Script Mod Phase. You can play around with the settings yourself, right? If you wanted a higher rate on that, you can pump it up. Which can be a very cool effect too. I find a lot of times I end up with it around 4. But we really can play with it for whatever particular setting we're using it in. So that's my number 5. Coming in at number 4 is the Bubble Vibrato. Now this is another effect that I use. I use it sparingly, but sometimes it's just the perfect effect. And here's the settings I like. I usually set the speed to note sync, and I usually set that to an 1/8 note, but that also depends on the tempo I'm at. So I have the tempo in HX Edit set to 120 right now. And those are the settings I really like a lot of times. And again, depending on what we're going to do with it, right? But the note sync, I mean, you can play around with that and go to a quarter note. Going to give the impression of less movement, a more subtle effect. Playing with your depth is going to be a huge thing as well. But right in and around those settings, I'm very happy with it. And that's a real go-to for me if I'm looking for a really interesting texture. And as a side note, this is a model of the Boss VB2 vibrato pedal. And number 3 is a 70s chorus, which is a model of the Boss CE1 chorus pedal. And what I really like about this is it's an extremely simple pedal to set up. You can use it in chorus mode or vibrato mode. I very seldom use it in vibrato mode though. So when you have it in chorus mode, you basically have the chorus rate. You also have the mix and level and headroom controls, which I usually just leave as such. But the chorus rate on this just allows us to dial in a really unique, interesting sounding chorus with very little effort. Really nice and effective. Again, if you bring that rate up, you can get a lot of more dramatic effect out of it. Really depends on how warbly you want it to sound. I kind of don't mind it here around the 2.8. Does give a different sound if we click over to vibrato mode. So it is nice to have that at your disposal, but for now I'm kind of just dealing with this as the 70s chorus. And again, I'm placing all of those previous 3 before the guitar amp. Doesn't mean they have to be there. We can easily, and the beauty of the Helix is I could take this chorus and say, well, what does it sound like after, right? And I can put it there. And just decide where it works best for us. At number 2 is the Tremolo effect, which is a model of the Boss PN2 Tremolo. And Tremolo is one of my favorite textural effects to use. I really love it, and I love how we can control a lot on here as far as the intensity, the note sync or the speed, and the wave shape as well is a really useful tool. I really like using this on parts where I just play maybe a single chord and let the tremolo pulsing do the work. So the intensity is very important on this. I can go very intense, get a heavier pulsing, but we can also bring that way back down, making it much, much more subtle. I kind of like that up around the 8 range. And I usually place that towards the end of my chain as well. But again, you know, we could always slide that up before the amp. There really is not going to be any right or wrong in that department. You just got to use your ears, listen for your particular purpose at that moment. But that tremolo effect, I absolutely love. And last but not least, at number 1 is a block I truly love that came to us recently in the Helix, and that's the Retro Reel tape simulator. It's just to simulate the sound of us playing through a tape machine, basically, as you would have in an old recording studio recording to tape. I've done a video on this before, and I used it as even an overdrive pedal before the amp going into, you know, our IR or our stock cab. But in this use, I kind of like it for using it as more of a modulation effect and really controlling the wow and flutter. So I have the saturation on 0, low and high cutoff. I have it set to tape speed to 30 inches per second, and the texture at 0, but I have the wow and flutter up higher. So I have all the other modulation effects off. So with the retro reel off, we get that sort of instability of an old tape machine that we can control the amount of that wow and flutter, all the while still getting a little bit of that kind of warmth and gooiness from the retro reel. Again with it off. It can add a real nice texture. Now, the nice thing about this is we can also add a lot of these in together, and I'll do this a lot of times. I'll take these sort of favorite settings of mine and start layering these within a mix to start creating sort of new sonic soundscapes. Sometimes it does get to be a little overkill. In this case, though, with the bubble vibrato off, it's just a beautiful texture that we could layer into an existing production or even just inspire new ideas. And again, you don't want to maybe go overboard, but you can even layer one or two of these at a time. Sometimes one of my favorites is putting the 70s chorus and the script mod phase together. And you can get some really, really cool effects. So that's my top 5 favorite modulation effects. Not necessarily arranged like this in that order. I do like the retro reel towards the end. But for certain uses, I also like it towards the beginning. I do like my tremolo after the amp. The script mod phase usually before. Chorus could go before or after. Bubble vibrato before or after as well. And that's just going to be, it's so nice in the Helix. We can just simply drag and drop stuff and figure out where the best place for it is for our particular purpose, But those effects, if you try those in some of your presets, I think you might find that there's some pretty inspiring tones there. And I use them mostly on clean to edge of breakup tones here, because a lot of times I find myself using these style of effects on more the clean to the edge of breakup type tones and using them as a real textural thing. Although that's not to say you can't put them on heavier tones as well. Experimentation is just so much fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed that look, and I hope maybe I sparked some new ideas for you to try and something that will inspire you to get some new and interesting tones and maybe even compose some new and interesting ideas. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get use out of watching it or enjoyment out of watching it. And please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Ciao for now.